One of the loneliest things a person can experience is slowly becoming emotionally invisible to themselves. The upbringing that I had from our parents probably contributed to that. I genuinely believed that was what being a good person meant. Some people become so good at reading everyone else's emotions that they slowly become strangers to their own. They would say that you are being dramatic, too sensitive, or an attention seeker. One of the biggest things I learned in my own life was that putting myself first sometimes is not selfish. It's self-respect and self-love. Have you ever felt emotionally exhausted not because life is falling apart, but because you've spent so much time trying to keep everyone else okay? Welcome to Inside Journey with Lovely, where we explore real human stories through psychology, human behavior, intuition, and emotional awareness. Today's story is about people pleasing and the quiet disconnection that happens when you slowly lose yourself while trying not to disappoint others. There was a saying that the loneliest people in the world are the kind people. They are the ones who are always present to lend a hand when needed by someone, friends or family. They have overflowing empathy to other people, and most of the time, they are being taken advantage of. These kind people, we sometimes call them empaths. They are the usual victim of the people who have manipulative and negative energy. Those who are selfish and users. They fond of draining the empath's energy, and when they are emptied and depleted, they just disappear. One of the loneliest things a person can experience is slowly becoming emotionally invisible to themselves. And the stranger part is most people around them would never notice because from the outside, they still look kind, reliable, easy to talk to, and emotionally strong. Physically, they look fine, but internally, they are tired, exhausted from accommodating and monitoring everybody else's emotions without realizing abandoning their own. They sacrifice their own happiness. And I think a lot of people listening right now know exactly what that feels like. That is what our letter sender experienced. Will keep her identity as Colleen from Northern Territory. Hi, Lovely. I've been listening to your podcast quietly for the past few weeks, which I found from YouTube. And honestly, I never thought I'd send something in. When I saw your announcement from Facebook, I took this courage to email you. I thank you for responding to my email, and that encouraged me more to share with you my story as I believe I am safe. Most people in my life would probably describe me as calm. I'm usually the person people go to when they need emotional support. I don't know why, but maybe because they could see that I am dependable, understanding, and the person who keeps the peace by taking care of their secrets. And for a long time, I thought that meant I was a good person, a good friend and sister. But recently, I've started noticing my body feeling so tired and sick. It feels like I am a battery, draining for the reasons I couldn't pin my finger out. I feel so emotionally tired. I usually ignore the pains. I still go to work, show up for people, and smile in conversations. But deep down, I feel disconnected from myself in a way I don't really know how to explain. When I am alone, I replay conversations constantly. I'm hearing their voices in my head repeatedly about problems and relieving their negative emotions and feelings in my own body. Most of the time, I overthink my messages before sending them. If someone's energy changes slightly, I immediately think I did something wrong. And honestly, I don't even know when I started becoming this version of myself. I just know that I feel anxious all the time around other people's emotions. A few weeks ago, one of my friends told me that I am the most honest of the most selfless people she knows. I smiled when she said that, but later that night I sat in my car and cried. And I think that was the moment something finally hit me, because for the first time I admitted something to myself that I've never said out loud before. I asked myself if people do actually love me, or do they just love the version of me that never says no? And honestly, that question scared me because I genuinely don't know who I am outside of being who everyone needs me to be. I hope that you could give me some light to understand myself and what is happening to me. Yours, Colleen. Wow, Colleen, I honestly could relate to your story. I can feel the heaviness of the weight that you are carrying inside you. Like you, I can absorb emotions and energy, whether close to me or far away from. I understand the pains that you are feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally. You know, these words that you said, I genuinely don't know who I am outside of being who everyone needs me to be. That's hit me and stayed with me for a while. This story reminds me of a younger version of myself, because there was a time in my life when I found it really hard to say no to people. If someone needs support, I made myself available. The upbringing that I had from our parents probably contributed to that. I genuinely believed that was what being a good person meant. I gave a lot of myself to other people, my time, energy, and even financially sometimes. Well, it felt good when people appreciated me for it. They would tell me I was kind, generous, reliable, and at that time, I didn't realize how much my self-worth was becoming connected to being needed by other people all the time. Now, honestly, when I hear stories like this, I don't immediately think weakness. I could say it's survival, because people pleasing doesn't always look unhealthy at first. Sometimes it looks like kindness. Sometimes it looks like being emotionally available, patient, and easy to love. But one thing I notice with people who constantly prioritize everybody else is that somewhere along the way, they stopped feeling emotionally safe expressing their own needs honestly. Some people become so good at reading everyone else's emotions that they slowly become strangers to their own. And most people around them probably never realize how anxious they actually are. Psychologically, human beings adapt to protect connection. So if someone grows up experiencing conflict, rejection, disappointment, or disapproval in their life, that could threaten love or emotional security. So people like this learn to adjust themselves. They become careful, hyper aware, and emotionally observant. Not because their body learned that if they keep the people around them happy, they stay emotionally safe. Unknowingly, your nervous system switch into survival mode. And you know what's interesting? Sometimes what looks like kindness on the outside is actually fear underneath. Fear of rejection, fear of losing connection. And I think a lot of people, especially like you, like us, quietly carry that. This is the part people don't talk about enough because people judge so quickly. They would say that you are being dramatic, too sensitive, or an attention seeker. But you know, being constantly emotional available for anyone else, it starts creating distance between you and yourself. Imagine spending years asking, what do they need? Will this upset them? Am I doing right? Am I disappointing them? Without asking yourself, how is myself? How do I truly feel? The more you abandon yourself to avoid rejection, the harder it becomes to recognize your real identity. And that kind of exhaustion is hard to explain to people, especially to those who are so close to you, when they think you're doing fine. And that pains you felt in your body, the feeling of being drained and exhausted, I felt those as well. A lot of people, after they got what they needed, they would disappear. And then suddenly they come back again, only when they needed something else. I realized not because they missed me or checking if I was okay, but because they knew I would always say yes. I am not saying those people were all bad. I love helping them, especially my family and loved ones. However, I don't even think most of them realize they do this. And over time, it started affecting me emotionally. I questioned myself too, my worth, and wondering if people actually valued me or if they only valued the version of me always giving. And honestly, that kind of realization hurts because when you spend so much time making sure everyone else feels okay, you slowly stop asking yourself if you are okay. And I learned this is why emotional boundaries are so important. Not to become cold or stop caring, but to stop abandoning yourself in the process of loving other people. One of the biggest things I learned in my own life was that putting myself first sometimes is not selfish. It's self-respect and self-love. It's understanding that your needs matter too. And when you finally learn and start choosing yourself emotionally, you realize how exhausted you have actually been the whole time. I believe a lot of people listening right now are carrying that exhaustion quietly. They become so used to being strong for everyone else that they don't even realize how disconnected they become from themselves. And I could say that's where healing starts, not by becoming a completely different person overnight, but by slowly learning that your kindness should include yourself too. Healing doesn't begin with suddenly becoming confident or learning how to say no perfectly. It begins smaller than that. It begins with honesty. Honesty to the most important person in your life. You, yourself. Colleen, I want to invite you and Also, those listening right now, take a moment to pay attention to your body, to your whole self, and ask these questions to the person living inside yourself. What do I actually feel? What do I really want? What parts of myself have I been silencing just to maintain connection? Take it slowly. You don't need to rush. Trust the silence and observe the answers that will be revealed to you. Honest and true answers that you would hear deep down inside your heart. Maybe this is your mirror moment, not to judge yourself, but to sit honestly with yourself for a moment. Give yourself a hug and say how much you love yourself. Feel it and let it sink under your skin, into your bones, and in the deepest part of your heart. How much of your life has been shaped by who you truly are, and how much has been shaped by the fear of disappointing other people. Awareness changes things, and sometimes the moment you finally become honest with yourself is the moment you slowly start finding your way to yourself again. If today's episode felt a little too familiar, if you've been carrying emotional exhaustion quietly, constantly overthinking, constantly showing up for everyone else while slowly losing connection with yourself, then maybe this is the right time to pause and reconnect with what's happening inside you. I wrote the clarity gap for people who look okay on the outside, but internally feel emotionally overwhelmed, disconnected, or mentally tired from carrying too much for too long. It's not all about fixing yourself. It's about understanding yourself more honestly. The ebook explores emotional patterns, self-awareness, boundaries, overthinking, and inner clarity through psychology, reflection, and real human experiences. And maybe this could be the beginning of finding your way back to yourself again. You can download the ebook, The Clarity Gap, at UnEarthlyLifeCoaching.com.
Are you stuck in the clarity gap? Built the life you were supposed to want, but something still feels missing. Find your way forward.
This is Insight's Journey with Lovely. If there's a part of your story you've been carrying quietly, this is the space where you no longer have to carry it alone. I invite you to support us, subscribe to our channel. Until next time, stay honest with yourself.